Mm-hmm.
And what I found out, and after going through that, an individual that I met that helped me more than anybody at the very beginning as far as healing my gut was my chiropractor, which sounds crazy, but I right after that I had some back pain and I have scoliosis, so I went to the chiropractor pretty regularly anyway. And I switched my chiropractor because I just got married and or was getting ready to get married and going to be moving to Elizabethtown.
Mm-hmm.
And so I started with a new chiropractor here in Elizabethtown. And whenever I told him kind of what all I had been through there, he gave me a lot of really good information as far as taking really good probiotics and then a lot of things that you can do in order to heal your gut. And I made more progress in about a 6 to 8 week time period doing what he recommended as compared to anything that I had any progress whatsoever that I made, or almost none, through the information received from my general practitioner. And that I quickly learned that chiropractors are trained in functional medicine, and so their training's a little bit different than a
Mm-hmm.
lot of individuals realize, and so they're really knowledgeable most of the time about how everything in your body really works together, and then things that you can do to help it naturally work the way that it's supposed to. And in doing even a little bit more research, because I still was taking a really long time to completely get over that, just as far as my body making progress, it was impossible for me to gain weight. It took about probably 5 months to be able to get back to like a decently normal diet. And even then, there was a lot of things that I could not touch that still
Mm-hmm.
made me sick. And what I ended up doing, I came in contact with an individual just by happenstance that suffered from a lot of the same health issues that I did. And she recommended that I go to this clinic in Louisville that takes a really holistic approach. And so I reached out to them, and in one visit, um, it was the longest doctor visit I'd ever had, which lets me know, hey, they care and they're trying to help you.
Truly.
Because I feel like most of the time, whenever you go to the doctor, it is a quick, maybe 15-minute in and out situation, regardless of what it is. You can tell the physicians are in a hurry and they're busy and they're swamped. And then you don't even really get to express, hey, this is what's going on. And not just mask symptoms, because I feel like for me personally, that was the approach with a lot of the healthcare that I received it through the years was let's just give you some type of medication that masks symptoms. And I typically would always decline that because my body does not do very well with a lot of medications and I'm very sensitive to many medications. And that also bothered me because I don't think the first step should be to pound pills. I think the first step should be to get to the problem of why is this happening?
We'll
And
definitely have a big conversation about, what are your symptoms? What has your life been like? It's
yes,
like you said, oftentimes when you go in there, I mean, just by the nature of, a doctor's office, sometimes they're triple booked for your same appointment time. Like if you've ever sat at the
right.
doctor for, 2 hours past when they told you to be there, that's because there were two people ahead of you. And so it's like
Yeah,
the desire to fill those appointments as quick as possible and move on to the next one. You just can't delve into, your entire medical history.
exactly. And for me, that was very problematic because a lot of medications would cause more problems than just the problems that were currently occurring for me.
Hmm.
And so I went to this clinic in Louisville, and the first visit that I had, the doctor sat with me for a long period of time, and I went through everything with her and said, "This is when it started. These are all of the things that I've struggled with, and fatigue is a major issue for me, and I can't explain that because I'm young and I should not be this tired and feel this bad to be as young as I am."
Hmm.
And she said, "I'm very suspectful of several different things, and we're going to do a bunch of tests and get to the bottom of it." And normally, whenever you've gone for about a decade trying to get the answers, you're like, okay, like, should I be hopeful about this or not?
Yeah, it's kind of like, oh
And
yeah, sure.
yes. And they definitely did just that. They had 3 different rounds of testing, one of which was blood work. And I laughed and came home to my husband that day and said they took more blood from my body than I've ever had taken in my entire life because they were legitimately checking so many different things.
Hmm.
And in doing the testing that they did, they found out that, and I actually just found this out almost a month ago, that I actually have an autoimmune thyroid disorder called Hashimoto's, and I also had a chronic vitamin D deficiency, like dangerously low. And then I also had what they call SIBO, which is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. And a lot of gut issues cause a lot of autoimmune disorders. This is what I learned from the physician that I see there in Louisville. And she was pretty confident that the gut issues that I had had over the years had been what had caused this autoimmune thyroid disorder. But it's also something that can be put into remission primarily with your diet, which was very encouraging for me because I don't even like taking an Aleve,
Mm-hmm.
unless
Well,
I
after
absolutely
everything
have
that you've
to.
been through, it's no wonder.
Exactly. I'm kind of petrified of a lot of things. And so they for me it was just kind of seeing, hey, there's a light to the end of this tunnel and I don't have to physically feel bad and suffer. Um but for me that also took me taking some steps of putting my health into my own hands and not relying on individuals to help with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I say that because the clinic that I found and the physician that I found, they don't accept health insurance, and that also is helpful for me, or in a lot of ways. And I know a lot of individuals would disagree with it, and that's fine. But my journey's been completely different.
Mm-hmm.
That and a lot of mental health therapists will say this exact same thing because my graduate school training is in mental health. I did school counseling for my master's degree in my rank 1. So I have a lot of background training in that.
Yes.
And I've heard many therapists say that they operate just on a no insurance scale. And they do that because they don't want insurance to dictate how they practice therapy, meaning that they may not think that every client actually has a mental health diagnosis, that maybe they're just going through a difficult time, whether it's the loss of a loved one, et cetera, and they want to be able to counsel them. But with insurance, you have to provide somebody a diagnosis. With health insurance, it really also dictates how practitioners practice medicine. And so for me, the clinic that I was going to, part of the reason that they were able to spend an hour and a half with me on my very first visit was because of the fact that they weren't being told how they had to dictate their practice and how they practice medicine. So that worked very, very well for me because you can still use like a health savings account to be able to pay for those types of visits. And believe it or not, I've gotten more answers in what little I have paid out of pocket, not going through insurance, as compared to what I have paid through the years, even paying for health insurance and having health insurance. And I do have health insurance, but I don't run it through this clinic.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I've paid a lot of money through the years operating through, practitioners and practices that obviously took health insurance and things like that. And I realize that for most people that's not possible. But for me, it was the only way that I was able to get any answers and get to the roots of the problems. And the other most encouraging thing as well was that the practitioner that I see, or physician that I see, was very intense about getting to the root of the problem. We're not going to mask symptoms. We're going to get to the root of what it is that's been causing these things, which is primarily my gut issues, and solve those problems so that you can live a good quality of life. And that's what was needed. So I think the big thing that I want people to understand is that you are an expert on your own body, whether other individuals may tell you that or not. And so it's also very important for you to take charge of your own health. For me, it took, not giving up, first of all, and saying, I'm not going to live like this forever. I'm going to get answers and I don't care what it takes. That meant missing several days of work and being very comfortable saying, I don't care what the repercussions are associated with that. Now, granted, for me, there weren't, because I have a very understanding supervisor and a very supportive supervisor. But you have to take charge of your own health and advocate for yourself. I advocated for myself several times with physicians that really just wanted to throw a lot of medication at me. And I said, no, listen to what I am actually telling you. That is a problem.
It's like you need to hear the symptoms that I'm giving you that I want to find the root of, not just mask, so that I can keep chugging along.
Exactly. And so there was one time I can think of going into a doctor's office and they said, well, how are you feeling? And I said, well, I've still been struggling with this and this and this whenever it came to my gut. And they said, great, glad you're doing better. Have a great time. Like literally, it was like
wow.
nothing. And I thought, okay, I'm ticked off that I even have to pay $56 for this visit,
Yeah, well,
because
that's
it
the
was a
thing is like,
complete waste of my
okay,
time.
did you even hear what I said? And a lot of times it can feel like that. I know just the few experiences I've had going in and just with anything, you know what I mean? It's like, it's so quick to just say, oh, well, it's this or that, and I'm like, well, it could be, or we could really do some testing and figure out what it really is, like anytime that somebody says like, well, I think it's this, I'm like, well, can we do a test? Can we look it up? Can we, you know what I mean? And I feel like a lot of times you end up getting
Exactly.
rushed, or they're like, here's an antibiotic that you can take, and that's not to say that doctors don't mean well, that they're not effective, that, you shouldn't see your general practitioner or whatnot. But
Right.
I completely agree with you. You have to advocate. If you are taking something that, somebody has given you or prescribed you, and, you're not feeling better, that's not on you. That's not your fault. You know what I mean? It's not that you're not doing it right. You're not whatever. You really need to go back and say, hey, this didn't work. And my quality of life is going down. What can I do? Or as you did, seek someone else out.
Right. And you really touch on a good point as far as there are a lot of phenomenal physicians out there. And for me, it took me years to be able to find, you know, that individual for me, a
Hmm.
physician that was really listening and taking everything into consideration and being really holistic in their approach to say, let's get to the root of the problem. And there's so many really good ones out there, but that really took me being persistent to say, I'm going to find this individual.
Hmm.
And so it is really important to advocate for yourself in your own health journey, and then also pay attention to your body, because there were a lot of different symptoms that I was having that, I may mention to, let's say, like my old previous general practitioner, and say, well, that doesn't make any sense. Well, then in talking to, my new practitioner that I have, after discovering the things that I have, she's like, yeah, that is one of the most common symptoms with Hashimoto's,
Hmm.
and all of those types of things where I'm like, okay, like I'm not just crazy. This, like, there were genuine things that were going on with my body that I didn't have answers to, and
Hmm.
one of the bad things is that sometimes you can suffer for years before you get answers. And so that's part of the reason that I was very comfortable sharing my story, to say that, to take charge of your own health and keep seeking the individuals that will be good to be able to help you, and capable of helping you and listening to you, and to not give up, in that process. Another thing to keep in mind as well, kind of branching off of this, is that in today's society, in my opinion, it's a very fast paced moving machine at all times. And it can be looked down upon, I think, if someone's not willing to just absolutely work themselves in the ground whenever it comes to their career. But
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more.
yes, but expect health problems for many individuals if that's the approach they take. And if you just simply looked at the data of our nation as far as health issues, whether it's heart disease, autoimmune thyroid disorders, the list goes on and on, the individuals that pass away from heart attacks, high cholesterol, diabetes, whatever, it would be very hard for anyone to ever convince me that the vast majority of those things don't stem from a very unhealthy work-life balance. And
Absolutely.
it's really important that you get comfortable, um, balancing, I think, your work and your personal life. And so for me, again, I had a really understanding and supportive supervisor, in the sense that I scheduled, physician's appointments, and anything that I needed to do, I did, and was able to let my supervisor know about that and say, like, that's not a problem. Your health is the most important thing here. Get done what you need to get done.
Hmm.
That's really, really important. And I know not everybody has that. But your health is a lot more important than your career. So take the opportunity to get those answers. I think
Absolutely.
building from that too is, don't allow individuals to make you feel bad for putting yourself first whenever it comes to your health over your work. And I have not experienced that, here in my current position, but I have been in other positions where that was absolutely the case. I mean, I think they would have rather like chained me to a chair than, say it was okay for me to take an hour to go to a doctor's visit.
Hmm.
And that is the most atrocious thing to deal with. And for me, I'm very independent and I'm very bold, and it doesn't bother me at all to say that's not how I'm doing things. But a lot of people are not that way. And so if you're a manager of personnel in any capacity, keep in mind that a lot of the times you have no idea what other individuals are going through whenever it comes to their health, because they may do a very good job of masking things when in reality they're really suffering from a lot of things health wise. Because to look at me on the outside whenever I was suffering, or kind of in the the post healing C. diff era, to look at me, if you would have known me before, you could tell that I had lost a lot of weight,
Mhm.
and I didn't have a lot of color to my skin for quite a while. And but outside of that, you wouldn't have known anything by looking at me. But I was really struggling because I couldn't hardly eat anything, couldn't keep anything down. It was very rough. And so it's that was not exactly a good experience. So keep that in mind that you have no idea what people are going through. And that's even in simple to if you send an email and somebody somebody didn't answer in an hour, calm down because they may have been to the doctor for the last hour. And I think especially whenever you work in education, you're working with a lot of other, faculty, staff members, instructors, you name it, students. You can get it's nothing for you to get 50 emails in, a matter of 4 hours.
Very
And
true.
so just be aware of the fact that you have no idea what individuals are balancing, and to be understanding and flexible about that. But it's really important to put your health first over those things, because nobody else is going to. And if you're not here, then you definitely can't do those things. So keep fighting for yourself and your own health to get the answers that you need, and to put yourself first in that category.
Absolutely. And I feel like that is even more, pertinent nowadays with the pandemic and how, when you're having health issues, it's suddenly there's like a lot more of a lens on that, a lot more focus on, you need to take care of your health because it's important for other people, that you're healthy and that you're well and that you're not, putting other people at risk and different things like that. But also with, the different ways that we have had to adapt to work. If you're working from home, there's always the temptation to kind of not stop. You're already home, you're in your house, just answer your email, just do this or that or whatnot. But if you need to take time for yourself, to reevaluate and say, hey, I'm not feeling well, this isn't going well, things like that, absolutely advocate for yourself and let people know, like, hey, I just need a minute. I need a minute to, or I need an hour to go to the doctor and figure out why I feel this way, or, whatnot. And I think that your story really illustrates the value of that and how impactful it can be because now I would say you're feeling better definitely than you were before. And
Yes.
to think about how you what state you might have been if you had just worked through it like a lot of people would tell you is effective, just you would have been in a miserable place right now, I'm sure.
Oh my goodness, yes. And one of the I think most amazing things as well is that even if you have some type of a chronic illness, and I say that as in, an acute illness, like if you had strep throat and, 10 days or whatever it is, you're going to be over that. You have
Mhm.
something more chronic, like an autoimmune disorder or, diabetes or something of that nature. Um, keep in mind that you can still have a really good quality of life, even with those things. So prime example, like what I just recently found out that I have, Hashimoto's, you can put that into remission, um, through a variety of different things. But we're starting out with tackling my gut issues, through several different things, and then also completely changing your diet, has been proven to put Hashimoto's in remission for a lot of individuals. And so, like, my diet will never be the same. And I'm okay with that because I'm okay to give up, several things if it means that I feel as good as what I have felt in the past 3 weeks. That we've been tackling a lot of these issues, that my body, currently has. And I've joked several times that in just finding out, what all I had, I think it was like February 9th, the regimen that we started me on as far as trying to tackle the gut issues, I felt better in the past couple of weeks than I have felt in the last 10 years.
Which
And
is
I'm
amazing.
29, I feel better at 29 than I did at 21. And so that alone can be really encouraging. And whenever you find somebody that is advocating just as hard for you and trying to help you get to the root of those problems and tackle those problems, um, you can still have a really good quality of life. And for me, it's been very helpful to say, oh gosh, this doesn't have to continue to get worse for me. This can get better.
Absolutely. And so thank you so much, Amber, for speaking on this topic today. And your story is definitely very empowering, very inspirational, and how you were able to overcome so many of these absolutely awful, horrendous health issues. And so I
So
would
weird.
encourage, I know, literally, I would
Like it would
encourage
happen to me at this
anybody.
point. It didn't matter what it was. It was just crazy stuff.
Honestly, I would encourage everybody to do just as Amber says and advocate for yourself and for your quality of life and for your health and wellness, especially as we continue on through these segments. We're going to be following a lot of those different messages that you really need to take the time for you because you have to live in your body. No one else does. And so make sure that you're, paying attention to your health, paying attention to your wellness mentally, emotionally, physically, all of those different things. And again, thank you so much, Amber, for joining us today and telling us your story. It's been wonderful.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. Thanks, Alexis.
Absolutely. And so again, this is the FYE Talks podcast. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday at 1 p.m. for awesome episodes just like this. And we can't wait to see you on the next episode.